And even in leadership, as CEOs think that you can AI leadership, you can't. There's people change. And you have to look at, and I've done it in my career, have a 25-year-old say, well, this guy can be a leader one day. AI can't do that. I think once people understand you got them, they have you too. Once your staff knows that you have them and they become a part of that organization wins. It's when they lose contact with that staff. It's when you start seeing, starts at the edges, right? People say that a lot. So it starts at the edges, frazzling. But if you really have each other, then it's going to grow. So then I just did it in one store. So that one store still thought I was foolish half the time, but the company thought I was a brilliant person always, because when I rolled it out to them, it was right.
You wake up, you work your ass off, you manage fire drills, and you shove food in your mouth and you go to sleep.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Retail Razor Retail Transformers podcast, where we bring you candid conversations with the people reshaping the world of commerce. The crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, and sometimes the round pegs of the square holes, but most often the bold thinkers that see things differently and drive this industry forward. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
And I'm Casey Golden. Welcome, Retail Razor fans, to the show where we spotlight the leaders, the innovators, and the disruptors reshaping the future of retail.
If you're passionate about innovation, leadership, and the future of commerce, Retail Transformers is the podcast for you.
Today, we're diving into a story that spans decades of retail leadership and innovation. Our guest, Bobby Johnson, built his career at BrandsMart, where he rose from an appliance manager on the shop floor to chief operating officer and chief stores and supply chain officer, helping shape one of the nation's most robust retail operations. In fact, he took the company's profitability from under 10 million to over 40 million annually, with a sales volume of over $1 billion. And now he's taking that experience into a whole new space, reimagining the laundry business with Spinjoy, a wash and fold service in partnership with Walmart.
What makes Bobby's journey so compelling, unique, and frankly disruptive is not just the scale of what he's accomplished, but the philosophy behind it. He's a leader who believes it's never about the business, it's about the people, whether that's mentoring future leaders, listening directly to frontline employees, or designing services that put convenience and trust first. I really can't wait to explore how those values shaped his career at BrandsMart and how they're driving his vision at Spinjoy. There's so much experience from to share for others to learn from.
But before we dive in, a quick ask for all of you listening and watching. If you're enjoying the show, hit us with a 5-star rating and drop us a short review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you're listening.
And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode there. And if you haven't already, take a few minutes and check out the other shows on the Retail Razor Podcast Network, the Retail Razor Show, Blade to Greatness, and Data Blades. You'll find them all in your favorite podcast app or on our YouTube channel. If you like this show, you'll love those too. It's time well spent. Trust us on that.
With that said, let's jump into our conversation with our latest retail transformer, Bobby Johnson.
You said that just so I wouldn't get a chance to say my favorite phrase.
Nope. Don't say it. You can't say it. Intro's over. Moving on to the interview. It's too late now.
All right, you got me this time. Next episode, maybe next episode. Bobby, welcome to the Retail Transformers podcast. It is so exciting when we have someone on the show with such a rich, storied retail career that's been all the way from the front lines in stores all the way to this C-suite. We're so excited to dig into your journey, leadership philosophy, and all the amazing experiences that you've had in retail.
Thanks for having me. Exciting. I love talking about retail in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Bobby, I'm thrilled to have you here. You've seen retail evolve from traditional big box to innovative service models, from building BrandsMart into a powerhouse to now reimagining everyday services with Spinjoy. And you've always kept people at the center of it. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
So you spent over 30 years at BrandsMart, and I think this is incredible, but you went from appliance manager to COO.
Yes.
What kept you motivated to stay and grow with one company for so long in such a tough industry?
It was a very dynamic industry. It was huge volume, so lots of people. And I thought we were, and they are different than the competition. And then I loved the people that I was with. And as we worked together longer and longer, you really have a love for each other. And that's what kept me there.
Wow.
Those people was actually.
It's a very rare career path these days, but I think something companies should chase again.
I do too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fascinating to me because we so often hear people talk about retail as such an unforgiving, kind of a brutal industry to be in. You've got long hours, there's high turnover, things are constantly changing, especially now, but maybe not as rapidly in the technology side before, but certainly today. But if you look back, what were some of the biggest lessons you learned about resilience, adaptability during all that time at BrandsMart? What made that the place that you wanted to, build your career?
I don't know, it was just, that was the place that I grew up. So it ended up being that place. But I think a lot of people still miss it. It is a leadership thing. It's a partnership thing. So once you create a partnership with your team, then that's what it really is about. So, and that's why you read so much about AI in today's world or whatever. That can't be, they miss the people part of that. So once your staff knows that you have them and they become a part of that organization wins. It's when they lose contact with that staff. It's when you start seeing, starts at the edges, right? People say that a lot. So it starts at the edges, frazzling. But if you really have each other, then it's going to grow. And it's just no different than that. And when I'm coaching, I use actually teams like Little League or football or whatever. It's no different. You see that in professional sports. If they don't have each other, if those are the difference between the good teams and the bad teams. Same thing in this, it's just leadership. So I just fell in love with leadership, and then I was able to, luckily I worked for some good people who allowed me to grow. And all the things to practice. So I was able to stay there for a long, long time and grow a great company.
What were some of the most challenging things you came across over all those decades at BrandsMart?
Well, the recession, 06, 07, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We went through that, and that was the first time we weren't making money, weren't losing money, but luckily we had owners who kept the money in the company, so we were able to stay around. And then certainly COVID, which seems like yesterday, when staying up all night trying to keep the stores open, the employees safe, sound, and good place to work too, and still trying to service the community because we sell major appliances. So we want to make sure that they still were able to, if the refrigerator broke, what were they going to do? Trying to make sure we still could deliver those goods when it was possible.
Yeah. You've mentioned multiple times how it's really always comes down to the people. So in a way, it's not really necessarily just about the business itself. It's always about the people and the team and who's involved. Is there a particular moment where that philosophy, that approach to really focusing on the people kind of change the outcome for something that the team or the company was involved in? And maybe it was one of those moments like with COVID or in the recession.
I think it was both of those moments. So my average tenure of people, of my direct reports was 25 plus years. And I didn't lose them during those times either. We stayed in contact. They went over beyond. And being in Southeast Florida, we went through hurricanes. I had a gentleman that was at work after a hurricane, and it blew the air conditioner off the top of his condo, in his car, and he drove this motorcycle that he had to work. His name was, I said, Errol, what are you doing here? Why are you driving your car? He told me, and I said, Errol, I got you. Go on. Because when it blew off his roof, it also left a hole in the roof. But those people are really what made it matter. And the reason I stayed there for that length of time was
that's amazing to have people with such a long average tenure in your team. I mean, how do you do that?
I think they have to. And I've done a lot of studying this because it interests me. I think your employees, need to know that you have them. So in my world, they understood that I ran a company. So the company was first, but I put them second always before myself. So like if someone called me and said, listen, I got to go because of whatever, I would say, okay, I got you. And I would go no matter what I was doing. Wasn't good, best sometimes for my relationships, but it was good for that. And I think once people understand you got them, they have you too. They're still people business, right? So that's important.
It is like the difference between, having a partnership almost, feeling like everybody's invested into the company and knowing that there is that reciprocity, I guess you could say, where in a lot of organizations, like there just isn't, you feel replaceable all the time. And they flex on making you feel replaceable. It sounds like mentorship has been central to your leadership style, that you personally mentor 2 to 3 people a year, which I think is phenomenal.
Amazing.
What did those relationships teach you about developing the next generation of leaders?
Well, even when, and you're correct, what I did, but even like I got a call today from somebody that I mentored early. He didn't stay, he worked for us for about 4 or 5 years. He went through college, but we still keep in touch to this day. And that, in case, I don't know if I told you this, but the people that I mentored like that, they call me Bubba. Now, my name's Bobby, and I don't know why they call me Bubba, but they all do. And so when I answered the phone today, he said, "What's up, Bubba?" Because it was. And I've never been called Bubba until they came up with it. But I enjoyed it because you take these young, old, it doesn't matter who they are, but you try to get them to the next level. And once they understand that too, they're not leaving. And many of the people that I mentor are still there. And I still get calls and a text yesterday again from somebody else just asking me how I was doing. And then someone today won't have lunch. Well, those relationships never end if you've truly mentored them well. I mean, you put them on that, right? And it doesn't have to be even work stuff. It could be anything else happening in their lives. And I'm just honest and straightforward, and that's what they appreciate.
Well, you've led basically from both front lines and stores as all the way to boardrooms. So how do these kind of unfiltered conversations, I assume you must have been part of in both of those environments, really, whether it was for cashiers or warehouse staff, and how does that kind of shape the decisions you make as a COO?
Well, it's a trial and error. And you got to just be honest for yourself, right? So there's many things. I work all the time, and it's just my nature. And I'm not going to change now. So I would do lots of things on the weekends, take up notes, do all, and I used to make changes in a store company-wide on Monday, and then half the time, literally, I was wrong.
But you had conviction, which I think is like 80%, 90%.
Right.
But I did, after about maybe a year of that, because I'm not a quick learner, I said, okay, this is silly. So then I just did it in one store. So that one store still thought I was foolish half the time, but the company thought I was a brilliant person always, because when I rolled it out to them, it was right. But you have to take that leap of faith with them and you. And I think I'm a changeling. I think that's important in leadership. Someone has to put some guides on me, and I had that as my CEO was that way. He said, "No, Bobby, we're not doing that today." So most of the time, you let me go. So, but you have to, because if not, and you don't change, the world's changing. So it's going to pass you. So you have to do that, whether it be retail or any other business you're in.
Yeah. I mean, culture itself in any company, right, is really tricky to scale and develop that way. I mean, that's a great example of that, right? When you went from trying to do it company-wide to just, let's do it at one store and see how it goes. But when you're overseeing hundreds of stores like that and distribution centers and everything else, how do you keep culture consistent without making it feel almost cookie cutter to everybody else?
So one of the things that bothered me a lot, so we were in South Florida only, doing tremendous amounts of business here. And then we took our organization to Atlanta, and they're still in Atlanta and in Georgia. So one of the things I did is half the people that went there, I paid to relocate there. So I was able to keep our culture by having half and picking. And I personally interviewed every person that went to that store. I wanted to make sure that that I felt they were the right fit with just being hospitable, having our culture, knew what we were about, and then transplanted it there. And it worked. It still took a while to get it through the company, doing it that way, but it did work. But it was hard.
Yeah, that sounds like a challenge for sure.
Yeah, because the only other way is process and procedure, but then it feels cookie cutter, what you just said.
Yeah, right.
All written like other change would. That's the only other way that I know.
Yeah. Well, I guess, but by bringing so many people to the new location with you, does that make it easier for all the new folks who are starting to really understand what the company culture is?
It did. And a lot of those people still work there. Some of them I ended up bringing back to Florida because they didn't like Georgia. So I said, it was my deal. It was my deal going in. So I said, okay, if you give me a year there, it was really in management, I'll bring you back here when I have it open. And that was a trust factor. So, and I remember even my CEO said, well, why are you bringing him back? He's doing great there. I said, because I told him I would.
He's only doing great there because I promised you could come back. Otherwise, he will be on.
And that was the conversation. I said, if you do great here, I will do what I'm saying I will do. And I did.
Yeah, I think that's great. When I first looked you up on LinkedIn, I was just very impressed. I mean, there's not very many people I've met that have been at a company for so many years. I just think that there's so many learnings there when you can literally go through the entire pyramid to make it to the top from, being an operator and starting at the bottom. I think it just shows great grit, so many skills, because you kind of get to have your hand in all the cookie jars over a long period of time and roll out strategies. I think it's one of the biggest disappointments is so many people today switch jobs as they've put something into play, but nobody's there to see it through execution because it's going to take 3 years to roll out and nobody's even staying for 5, right? And it took us 2 years just to put the strategy in place, maybe implement software. And I'm nobody's there through the whole thing. And I think it just kind of goes to having that continuity of knowledge and operation and vision and strategy. I think I was just very excited to meet you, one. And then I was like, what in the heck is Spinjoy? Because it has to be something pretty freaking fantastic to get you to move, to anybody in the city. I'm like, you're sitting pretty. What are you doing? And now I'm completely obsessed with the business and I'm so intrigued. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was talking about this with somebody on a flight. I've been talking about it with every single person I know. It's a laundry service inside of Walmart.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. And it's obviously the most obvious next step is to hey, let's go, go into the startup world, right? But you're doing it in a very big way. I think you're skipping I don't know, 80% of the startup world. So congratulations.
Thanks, I think.
That's a good thing.
What drew you to this business? What is the story here?
So a friend of mine that I'd worked with for a long time invested in this company. He came and asked me, he says, you're the perfect for this fit. And then I started looking into it and it was exciting. And it was time for me to change careers because BrandsMart had sold to a corporate company.
Yeah.
And still great people. But it was time for me to make a switch. So I said, okay, this is going to be perfect. And it interested me. I've always had a love of studying the way Walmart did things because they're Walmart. So I said, this is going to be very big. And then as I started studying it more and more, and even daily, it's going to be huge because it's just the perfect timing. We're going to offer to everyone a good priced wash and fold service that's convenient for everyone to get to when it gets rolled out. So, and it's going to be ran correctly. I'm going to do it. It will be ran with a customer first mindset.
Yeah.
So I think once you do that, and you put all what I've learned in my career back into a business, I think it's going to And it hits everyone at perfect timing because like this shirt and most of our clothes now, instead of being shirt, tie, jacket, they're all dry clean. A lot of that's wash and fold.
Yeah.
With all the kids and stuff. And I have a son that plays, he's 16 now, but he used to play Little League and he still plays baseball, football, all of his stuff. And it just is, it'll give people, and this is the big deal to this, once everyone understands, they get 3 or 4 hours a week doing their laundry. It'll give them that 3 or 4 hours of time back.
Yeah.
So once that, and it's going to be at a very close price to what, if they count times at $10 an hour, they're going to be saving money having someone else do it. And
yeah, I think that's really important. And they don't make washing machines the way that they used to, right?
That too. Yeah.
I think I grew up in 2 households, between it. I don't think anybody ever said the washing machine was broken. And now, I hear it all the time when I'm on the phone with friends that the washing machine broke. And I'm like, I've never heard my grandmother say that. I never heard my mother say that. Were they ugly? Yeah. But I don't think they broke.
No, they just kept going forever. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Same thing with a lot of appliances, right? Part of it was, and I came from that business, so part of it was just the way they were manufactured. They're manufactured today differently, and they're manufactured with real big motors that took a lot of energy. But it's like driving, and I use this analogy, it's like driving like an old car, right? That had this big engine, but it never had to rev up. It never had to work hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything is having to work real hard, like a little car. They don't last as long.
They wear out.
But they're more energy efficient, but you have to replace them every 5 years. So,
yeah.
So,
I just see huge opportunities. And most people see laundromats as utility and really focused in cosmopolitan areas, having a washer and dryer at home is a luxury. It's definite flex in New York. And you don't think about the experience, where I think about the experience the whole time I'm sitting there. But I'm not willing to do anything about it. I'm I already have a full plate. I'm not fixing this. But for a lot across America where it's not a general occurrence to have all these laundromats on all these corners, it's a whole new opportunity for an entirely underserved, undertapped market. How are you reimagining wash and fold to feel more like a retail environment that maybe people want to be in or come back to? I'm sure you're taking a lot of retail into the services.
So I can't help but do that because that's where I came from, right?
Right.
So, and that really was why they were very excited to have me for that. And I think because retail has evolved and had all the efficiency of that, it puts a customer first mindset, first of all. And then having it in a Walmart, and Walmarts are real close to 80% of America. So it's just convenient. And then if you go into Walmart anyway to do your grocery shopping or all that, one of the things that we're going to do and are doing is it's a 90-day, I said that earlier today. 90 days, you can get your laundry back. 90 days,
I can go buy more.
I'm going to replace it all.
Really isn't efficient, but 90 minutes, we'll get it back to you. So rather than just sitting at a laundromat, you can get a bunch of other stuff done at that same time. Or we're going to be able to integrate with Walmart Plus and get it delivered back to you. So it's just, we're trying to hit all what's good for everyone. It's hard to do, but we'll offer curbside delivery, right? So all that stuff that'll truly, when I say 3-4 hours a week, truly give that 3-4 hours a week back and do a better service than you could do at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. 90 minutes for much of America is starting your errands and finishing your errands.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Because it's kind of a little bit more than that, actually. Being in New York, I never run errands because everything is within point A to point B. My errands are in between where I go.
Right.
So I don't spend time going and running errands, but it's a very New York thing, very cosmopolitan thing. I don't run errands, but for everyone else, 90 minutes on any given day, somebody's running errands for 2 hours.
Well, I just went by a school earlier today, and they were sitting in line to pick up their children an hour and a half, which is 90 minutes, before that school ever even let out.
Yeah. I remember those days.
They should drop off their laundry, go pick up their kids and go pick it up, and they're all done, all in that same time frame.
Right. Same trip. Yeah.
And that's where once people understand that, it's really going to become viral and be national very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I guess from that perspective, the whole location strategy is key, right? So like attaching yourself to Walmart is such a great way to be where you expect people to be and where they need to be or have other things to do. So in that sense, I mean, do you look at location? Do you think about location strategy in terms of just traffic counts and rent? Or are you designing, just thinking in terms of where is life happening for this target customer? Your example just now of the parents going in line at school to wait for the kids to come out and then go pick up the laundry.
So in 26, we're going to have 5 stores that we have picked different stores. They gave us 150, 200 to choose from, but we picked different stores for different demographic. Like we have one that's in a college town, one that's in a very big rental community. And that way we can learn. It's a learn and see, right? So we will learn what the differences in those customer habits. And then that way, when we go to 150 and then 500 stores in the next 2 to 3 years, that we know where to put them and how to interact with that customer, because you can't guess anymore. You're going to have to go out and say, well, this works. And it doesn't matter where rural America is in Douglasville, Georgia, or some little town in Oregon. It's still rural America. So then if you do that, college town is still a college town. That's the reason we're doing what we're doing. So it's been a lot of thought. Actually, we overthought it. So a lot of things people do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think it's, if somebody from that industry were to build it versus somebody from like the retail industry building it, I think it'd be 2 very different end results. So I'm very excited to watch you build this. Trust and transparency are big themes in your leadership. How does the app-based, like real-time tracking model at Spinjoy reflect some of those values?
Well, being app-based, you sort of lose that human touch.
Yeah.
But I don't plan on losing the human touch, because it's still going to require me getting up from here and going to the stores or having conversations like this. I have many podcasts, I don't have many podcasts at all. I have many Zoom calls during the course of a day. Some people I've never met, but the time you meet them, you feel like the two of you. I feel like I would know you for a long, long time, right? So I think this technology allows us to get a lot of that across. And that's what my plan is with local leadership in that, and still getting our core values through. And I think that's going to be easier because of technology in this case. Right.
Everyone talks about the wins, but very few talk about the toll. What did it cost you personally to lead at the scale that you have? And how do you look at balancing it now?
Well, you didn't tell me there'd be tough questions.
Surprise.
That's what keeps it interesting.
Somebody says, oh, you want to simplify your leadership. And I'm like, whatever. You wake up, you work your ass off, you manage fire drills, and you shove food in your mouth, and you go to sleep. I'm like, it's the same thing every day.
I repeat.
Wait, you do it differently?
So without getting you emotional, because that would, when you think about it, it could become that way. It cost me 2 marriages. I was more married to my people in work than I was to my wives. And and I still love her dearly, but I told as a friend, but my last wife, when we weren't getting along and during the divorce process, and I told her this, I said, I'm not been a good husband. Evidently, this is my second time I failed, but I'm a great father and a great ex-husband. So we're still learning that space. So, but that was some of the tolls that working that much and putting that in front. And I think I could have been better in some other ways too, but you have to adapt to that too. So there's a way with my son, I've some certain transitions from my professional career and still kept him first. So you still, there's possibilities to do both. I just wasn't good at both.
Yeah.
But maybe next time.
I like what you said. Like, but
in some ways, it's always a learning experience. Yeah.
I think I'm going on 23 years being single, so I didn't even touch it.
That's a whole different.
I'm like, oh, sorry.
That's a different conversation.
I'm busy working. Sorry. I know I like how I'm going to spend the next 2 hours. I don't know if I'm going to like spending 2 hours with you. So I'm just going to keep working.
That's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Anybody who figures out that balance on how to do it all.
That's a major win. That's a major win. Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you, maybe shift a little bit here. Throughout all the years that you've led different organizations, I mean, you've also had other leaders that you've brought from whatever position that they were in up into leadership roles. As you look back into all the different people that you work with, have you mentored in those capacities versus what you see happening in the world, in the industry going forward, what do you see that you think maybe everyone's just getting completely wrong about how you develop that next generation of leaders?
I think if you don't spend the personal time, and I just commented on Zoom being great, but if you don't get up and walk in their shoes to know what their issues are, to help them with those issues, A, they're not going to stay with you. So you can have more turnover. B, they're not going to see the way you leads. So you're not going to create great leadership. You can't, there's nothing wrong with Harvard degree graduates, and they come out very book smart and they know how to look at analytics and all that, but no one's taught them how to talk and lead people, and they're going to have to write people. So that, and hopefully you hire the right candidate, but you have to get with them to show them how to do that job. And there's not a shortcut to that. It's just a time thing. And they don't understand it either. These 25, 30-year-olds, right? When you tell them, listen, it's not an age thing, it's an experience thing. And you have to walk down that path. You have to fail, get up, and go forward. But without that, you're not going to have that experience. So I hope that makes sense. But
yeah, we hear so often people talk about learning from failures, right? As much as, and oftentimes more than what you learn from the wins and the successes. And I think that's an example of that. When you look at someone who is new to an industry or new to a career, just entering the job market, then there's always lots of energy, right? They want to go and do everything. But you're right, to your point, right? You kind of have to build the experience, to leverage the experience to know how to deal with things. And that's what's going to likely determine, whether it's going to be a given activity, a success or a failure, and what you're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen change over the last 30 years of leading people, right, is the people, right? So the way they're brought up and they're educated, and you hear this a lot when you talk about Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen 500, whatever. And today, when you're talking to someone that will use 30 years old, if you take the time to explain what you're doing, you get a much better finished product. Whereas in 30 years ago, you could just say, okay, do this, and this is how I want it done. It was done. And respect, right? But if you don't take that time, they go over here, do something. But if you take that time, and once they fall apart, it's the same thing. It gets done. So your leadership style through the years does have to change. To your audience, right?
Right. So if you look forward, let's look forward for a minute. How you lead people kind of has to change, has to adapt. But if you look forward maybe to the next 3-5 years in retail, what are the things that excite you the most about what's to come? And maybe one of the things that maybe scares you the most about what's going to come?
The excitement is still people. And I think it's incumbent upon the retail industry, the Walmarts of the world, and everyone in there to make that job exciting. Now, what scares me is a lot more. AI scares me, and I'm an AI nut. I use it 4 different programs every day. But I don't think you can replace the person interaction. I think a robot can tell you where to get your jeans, but it's not going to tell you, feel these, they feel soft, I like this, or right. So And I think a lot of people that do shop and that do go out want a person there to help them and to find out creative new ways of doing things where AI is going to look through all the search engines and say, well, this is what search engines say it's going to do. So that does scare me some. And even in leadership, as CEOs think that you can AI leadership, you can't. There's people change. And you have to look at, and I've done it in my career, have a 25-year-old say, well, this guy can be a leader one day. AI can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look, whatever it is at face value, that's the way it is. It's not going to tell you have a 77% chance of them becoming a leader, not. Sure, right?
Yeah.
So it does scare me that if we go down that route and forget about people.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that change the way you look at how you define success today versus how you defined it, when you first started your career versus how you think we're going to define it 5 years from now when we're all surrounded by AI?
I don't know. I think there's a fork in the road that can happen either way. And I think what people do is they'll try and go, I think you're going to go down the AI road, maybe too much, and then come back. And if you see, I had a conversation recently about home office. Home office is good, but it's not the end all. So you'll see people have to go back to work because they're going to work, right? And there's a culture that happens when people are together, eating lunch together, doing stuff. So it depends on that job as well. When you saw COVID send everyone out, but now you see people bringing them back and back. But it's going to cycle. And I think that same thing's going to happen with the AI experience going in and out.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have a lot of whiplash just from these pendulum swings, because I don't think it's just that technology is on a pendulum. I think businesses, even users, everybody's using AI to getting a robot that's doing dishes now, apparently, that we can get, to the other side where they're like, I don't even want a phone anymore. I'm offline. I'm canceled everything. And there's this whole movement of going dark. And it's just we have all these pendulums and just too much tech, not enough. I don't want to touch any of it. I want to be a part of everything. I want to build it. I'm done. I'm burnt out. So there's this digital burnout that's happening, and it's going to be very interesting as on all the people on who's building.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's a guess because you don't know. Yeah. It's going to happen. I mean, we've all seen it happen. So what I'm telling you, it's going to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part. How long is it going to take for everyone to get back and forth? I can see, or you can read about all these offices opening back up and getting people back into an office where the culture's done. We know that was a time thing, so 20 to 25. So it took 5 years for all that to do, but it was still a guesswork of when. So same thing with this. It's a when. And it's never all 100%. It's always going to be some of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
See some of it of that. I bought furniture. I bought furniture, patio furniture. I do everything, a lot of stuff online. I bought patio furniture online. Online, it looked great because you don't see size online. When I got it.
Oh, was it for Barbies?
It was golf furniture. My son was 80 at the time, thought I bought him furniture. So, I did.
That's funny. No, I bought a jar of peanut butter this big. And enough peanut butter to last me 5 years because I barely eat peanut butter. And then I bought a conditioner that was this big, which I go through a big bottle every day. And I'm just I'm a professional and I screwed this.
Yeah. 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 That's one of those things. Size is so relative. And
I'm there's no hope for the consumer.
Yeah.
I'm screwing this up.
Yeah. It's there's only so much you can get from you go through descriptions. It says it's how many ounces? Wait, is that the small one or the big one? I don't know.
Yeah, it's helping with dresses too. Lots of girls over the last maybe 5 years ago, we all bought dresses for dolls. Yeah, it was a thing. Oops.
Yeah.
Bobby, this has been such a great conversation. I absolutely adore you. And I could keep talking forever. I think you're just an absolute gem for the industry. And I'm really excited about this new business. I'm definitely going to be watching. And just thank you so much for sharing your journey and your leadership insights with us today. I think we're gonna have some new fan favorites here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I enjoyed it. Obviously, I enjoyed it. My face is hurt.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that for sure. So really quick before we go, if any listeners want to either follow what you're doing at Spinjoy, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So we have spinjoy.com, which is it's being developed. My email is bjohnson@spinjoy.com if you want to reach out.
Yes.
So it's pretty simple, and we'll be in an area near you, and I plan on watching through social in that space. I think it's so just look for us and we'll be there.
All right, fantastic.
All right, you guys, this episode is a wrap.
Thank you so much. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Good Pods. And don't forget to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube so you never miss an episode. I'm Casey Golden.
We'd love to hear from you. Follow us and share your feedback at Retail Razor on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our Substack newsletter for highlights from every episode, and visit retailrazor.com for transcripts and more details about our guests. Retail Transformers is part of the Retail Razor Podcast Network. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay sharp, be bold, and transform retail. This is the Retail Razor Retail Transformers.